Hello guys, this is Leo from Quotes and Posters, and today I'm going to talk about this quote: if you are desperate for a friend, get a dog. So what I think about this quote, and I understand that this quote can be very mean, right? Can be a very, maybe considered something like bad or bad intentioned or stupid. But the real thing about this quote, and I actually modified this quote. I think this quote initially was from that movie Wall Street, that Michael Douglas has that character Gordon Gekko, right? And it was a very famous movie, I think in the 80s or 90s. And basically, he says is a tough world out there, and if you're desperate for a friend, get a dog. Because basically he was saying that there's no real friends in the world, right? And I'm not sure I actually believe in this fact that there are no real friends, but I think what you have to see and you have to understand for yourself is this notion of friend, and what does a friend means, and what does a friendship actually really means, because I think a lot of people, they kind of get this mistake, that they think that they are into friendships, but everyone has a different notion, and everyone has a different idea about what friendship really means, and so that's quite tragic, because if everyone has a different idea about what friendship really means, well, that means that of course people are going to get disappointed, because they're going to expect something out of a person that they consider a friend, and that person is not going to deliver, is not going to represent, or is not going to do what they expected, and then there's going to be all this negativity, and all this false expectations, and a lot of remorse is going to be built. So there's no really an idea, there's not a consensus in the world about friendship, what friendship really means, and what actually constitutes a friendship or not. And you can't put it into words, because you can't make a bullet points, or you cannot put on Wikipedia, or you cannot put in the dictionary exactly what a friendship is, right? Friendship can mean many things, right? But what it basically is a relationship between two people, right? That two people are getting benefits. Two people are helping each other, and each part is getting something out of the other. That's what a friendship, in the big picture, is, right? And then when it gets really confusing, and then people really gets to make a lot of misinterpretations and mistakes, is exactly what they should be getting out of a friendship or not, right? Because everybody's going to have their own ideas of what true or what a real friendship really means, right? And then people get into these mistakes in life and they get disappointed, because some people, they just let them down because they didn't act accordingly how they expected to act, or how they thought a particular person would act. And then you just, as you get older, you just realize that friendships come and go, and you might have relationships with people that are very present in some moment, in some part of your life because of the circumstances, but eventually time ends up passing by, and then these people, they end up doing something else with their lives, or maybe moving to another country, or maybe getting married, and then the relationship, the intention that you used to have in this relationship is not as great as it used to, right? And then suddenly, eventually, it really ends, the relationship. You might only talk to this person once in a year, or once in every 3 or 5 years, or maybe you just completely forget and the relationship just vanishes. Maybe this sometimes, many times, this happens through just a natural course of life, but many times it also happens because that person did something for you that was not nice, that was not good for you, you didn't like. That person just did something that for you prefer not to have a relationship with them, with this person anymore, or vice versa, or maybe you did something that person didn't like. And the reality is we are living in a very selfish world. And we're living in a world where people are constantly only thinking about themselves and only thinking about what they can get out of a relationship, right? And we're living also in a society, and especially in first world countries, where people, they have this notion of time, where they value their time as the most precious thing, which in fact it is. I'm not saying that they're wrong by doing this, but they kind of get neurotic about that, and so they are always like thinking about how to get the most out of their lives and how to get the most out of their time and their relationships and their friendships, right? And and then there's also this factor, I think, that some people, they are very lonely, right? And they're like looking desperately for friends. They're looking for people to be their friends, and they need companionship. They need to share things with others, And and that's something also very that I see happening a lot with people that I know, and I see it happening a lot in general, in society in general, right? So I'm going to give you my opinions about what I think is a friendship, and why you shouldn't be so worried, or at least, as the quote says, why you shouldn't be so desperate to have friends, right? And I'm telling you, I don't have many friends. I'm a very antisocial person, and naturally I don't have many friends. Like, naturally people don't come to me naturally trying to be my friends. Like, I don't get thousands of messages every day. Nobody really gives a fuck about me, right? And this has always been the case in my life. I never had many friends, and I think the reason is because, first, nobody saw anything special about me that they could get from me. It can be like in terms of of advices or something that they wanted to share. Nobody saw me as a person that they could confess their problems to me, or nobody saw me as someone interesting to just do and share some activities together. And even if they did sometimes, I was always really focused on my work. I always focused really hard on working and not spending much time cultivating friendships. But also at the same time, I always had relationships, not friendships, but I always had like let's say love relationships. I always had like girlfriends or people who I was dating, and I always focused more on this kind of relationships apart from, rather than focusing on other friendships, right? Which doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It's just a matter of time management, because my time is, and everyone else's time also, we only have 24 hours a day. It's very limited. And I always did many things in my life. I always worked a lot, and I always had like side activities. For example, whether I was like working as with my regular job and I was doing a side company on the side, a side project, or I had bands, or I was traveling, I always had things, and it's like really hard. I always struggled, and I always found very hard to retain and to keep a friendship for a long time, because first of all, because the reason I was telling you, nobody actually came to me trying to be my friend, trying to really be a friend where I could meet every week. Nobody ever did this. And second, because I was also not searching for it. I was not allowing myself for it, because I was always busy doing my stuff. And sometimes it's very hard. Sometimes it's very hard to find people who has this time, this availability of time to spend with you. It's really hard to find people that actually do give a fuck about you and actually do care about you, which doesn't like really happen that often, right? I think people are in general very individualistic, and people are very opportunistic. They don't generally care about you. They're only with you because of something, right? They care about themselves first. And so I always found also that relationships in general, not only friendships, but any kind of relationships, it always feels, it's very hard to get relationships that you naturally feel that both parts are benefiting without an effort. It's always some sort of negotiation behind, which is really hard, So because of that, sometimes I just think about myself on just being alone. Sometimes I just believe that the best thing to do is don't put your mindset in a desperate way where you desperately need a friend or you desperately need someone to talk. And it's quite hard, because I've been through so many struggles in my life and so many things that I wanted to share, but I don't have anyone that I can share with, especially because the people that are in my life, which I could share the stuff that I have to share, their level of consciousness, I understand that it's not the same as mine, and I'm not saying this because I'm pretentious or something like this. No, I just realized this. I realized that whatever I'm going to share something deep with them, they're not going to be able to actually give me a good advice or a good feedback that we can actually grow each other together with something some solid foundation about knowledge, you know. They're always gonna give me some very basic advice that, well, I could get much better advice from YouTube, for example, right? So that's one thing. And also another thing is I realized that with social media, actually, we are getting connected to each other much more, but we are also at the same time getting each time more distant from each other. So I realized that before social media, like I'm 35 now, so I was a teenager when social media literally didn't exist. There was no such thing as social media. There was no such term. So I remember that I used to do a lot of things, much more things together with people than I actually do now, because now you spend all this time in front of a computer, right? But also maybe that has to do with the fact that I had a lot of time. Like I was young, I didn't have to work, I was living with my family, so I didn't have to pay the bills and everything. But then when you start to grow old and you start to have like responsibilities and everything, it gets even harder and harder, you know, to keep good friendships. And also in my case, I traveled a lot. I lived in different countries, I lived in different cities, so it even gets even harder, you know, to establish friendships when you're living in different cities, and then suddenly your friend starts dating someone, and then he moves to a different city, and that's it. So, and then you just naturally don't keep in touch with him. So all these things are things that for you to consider, you know, if you're young, if you're like on your 16, 18, or you're on your 20s, you gotta get used to the fact that your friends, they naturally will go, and new friendships will come, older friendships will go, and you can still keep in touch with them, but you gotta understand that this is a natural process. Like I think it happens to everyone, right? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, please write down below on the comment section, and please like the video, or don't like, or subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you.